Welcome to New Game Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
I kicked the corner of my bed really hard this morning and it hurts.
That's Nolan, and this is episode 309. The Game Awards happened last week, and yes, Kenny, it's called the Game Awards. We did this last time.
It's a bad name.
Rewards were handed out, and we were blessed with plenty of world premieres. As a quick recap, not covering it all, some of the awards included Best Action Adventure, that went to Metroid Dread, thankfully.
Oh.
Okay.
Best Indie, that went to Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, which I want to play and haven't.
I'll check it out.
Best Ongoing, beating out Fortnite and Apex Legends, was Final Fantasy XIV Online.
I like
They
that.
recognize the hype and resurgence.
And Game of the Year surprised a lot of people, including the director of the game itself.
Oh,
Game of the Year went to It Takes Two.
Okay. What's that?
Okay, It Takes Two is from the director that directed Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, and a few other games since. And it's a co-op game, like a couch co-op game. I think you could probably play it online as well, but it's a game that it takes two players.
Yeah.
It's a husband and a wife that are shrunk down, something like that, and then they have to work together to solve puzzles. Kind of like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, actually.
Okay.
But two different players.
Indie. You said a guy. It's just some guy.
Well, no, he was back then. Now, like, he works with, I don't know if it's EA. It's not EA. I don't remember who, but they give him free reign to do whatever, but he works with
A team.
A team, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's surprising, honestly.
You'll have to check it out. There were other premieres as well, premieres of new games or games that are going to be coming up within the next 20 years. Like,
Right,
they talk
yeah.
about games.
I know they.
Hey guys, we're
announced
thinking
games
about
that, like,
making this.
Yeah, we're thinking of
Maybe we'll do it. I don't know.
in 2050, if the technology exists, we're gonna make this new game.
So I don't know tons about a lot of these, so don't ask me questions. But Star Wars Eclipse by Quantic Dream.
I'm asleep.
There's going to be a Wonder Woman game by Monolith Productions. They developed.
Asleep.
Yes, I would be asleep, and I probably am. But it's the same team that developed the Middle Earth games, like the Shadow of
Colossus.
no,
Mordor. Yeah.
Alan Wake 2, which I forgot to tell my wife about. We played Alan Wake together. I got to tell her. Sonic Frontiers might interest you. It's Sega's first open zone inspired game. I think they're trying to go Sonic open world.
Open zone?
Yeah, that's what they're calling it.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want. No.
Well, you're not.
I don't think so. If it's not another Sonic Mania type game, maybe not. I don't like when they experiment.
I just wanted
It's
to.
It's open world, but you do your own fast travel.
Okay.
I should never pause for the jokes.
No, never worth it. But go ahead. What's the other reveal?
No. There wasn't anything
Oh.
too spectacular. Well, there was a Dune game, honestly, but again, all of these are like more information in 2023.
Did you say
it's
Dune
like
or
Dune?
Doom?
Dune, N-E, Dune.
Scares me, but it could be hype.
Could be hype.
Could be.
So I just wanted to kind of throw up all of that on you guys and say, is there any of that interests you? You want to talk about
I would rather talk about last year's Game Award.
the year before?
Yeah.
He just wants to bring up the fact that he thinks Hades deserves more credit.
It
than
Takes
got,
Two-
even though it got so much credit.
Won. Then Hades should have won. It was by far the best game in the selection last year.
If you can't tell, this week Nolan is playing.
No,
Hades.
Dustin is more on that later.
We are playing.
But Hades got snubbed, and everyone knows it.
Do you want to know what it takes to beat out for Game of the Year?
I would love to know that.
Metroid Dread, Deathloop, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. So it's not like they had the greatest selection.
Yo,
Yeah, they
that was
weren't-
the year
they
to
weren't
win.
Going up against any big hitters. For sure.
Deathloop being in that is so political and wrong. I think that game
Really?
flopped. Yeah, it was like hype, and when it came out, people were like, "No, it's just."
Bethesda, right?
I
Bethesda had a part of it?
think it's the Dishonored people made.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and it looked
Oh.
great, but people were playing it and were like,
Didn't
"This
turn out great.
no, I haven't played it, but if you're gonna win out of a game award, this year would have been the one to go for. Because yikes,
I wanted Metroid Dread to win more.
Me too.
But I you know, I don't know. There was no chance in hell that they would. Kenny, that's a good one.
Jackie,
that's a good one. There's no chance in hell.
Jackie. Right.
Like in our retro game of the week, I hate myself.
Yes.
Jackie Chan Stuntmaster.
Overview.
Jackie Chan Stuntmaster is a PlayStation game that was released in 2000. Oh, I mean, I might as well start with this section with this. Radical Entertainment, the developers of this game, developed Mario is Missing for the NES. Oh, yeah. We've played that on the podcast. You can go check that episode. There's a lot to unpack there, but I'll just let that hang there. Midway published it. Midway, I think of Mortal Kombat. You know, they have done a ton of big games, and I trust them. Radical, not so much. This is a beat-em-up platformer. Now, 3D. Remember, this is PlayStation, so like they're venturing into the 3D games, regardless of anything else. They're just like, we have to do 3D, and it's a beat-em-up platformer, so they made it happen. Jackie Chan, if you don't know, is a actor, stuntman, IRL, and a hero.
Martial artist.
A martial artist, and so many other things. Director, probably a writer, probably a producer. He's been around a long time in Hollywood, and he makes action movies. And he has for some time.
Since the 1960s.
For a long time. And he
Since
has...
the 1960s.
For a long time. And he's inspired a lot of people, and he makes fun movies. You may have seen him in Rush Hour. Those movies were maybe his biggest, arguably, with the other actor.
Chris Rock? Chris Tucker?
No. Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I got it the second try.
It's a Chris.
It's a Chris. It's one of those Hollywood Chris's.
And anyways, they wanted, at the time, in 2000, they wanted to make a video game in Jackie Chan movie style, and so they did. And they consulted Jackie on a lot in this game. They wanted it to be like his movies, and so he was involved in the process in many ways. The plot is Frederick, Jackie's grandfather, is kidnapped.
Grandpa napped.
Grandpa napped, and you must get him back. Smiley face.
And you've got to deliver a package to a temple.
Is Shaolin, the Shaolin package to the Shaolin temple. That's really all it is. It's a very simple story.
That is it, yeah.
I try to like add to it there, but
no,
that's the plot, and it's kind of like the plot of one of his movies. Like his movies aren't super deep in terms of like story or lore, and so sure they just stopped there and they let the gameplay do the rest.
I played a lot of PlayStation games growing up. PlayStation 2 were my consoles, was my era of gaming. But I don't know if I've ever played a PlayStation beat 'em up. It wasn't a console known for its beat 'em ups.
No.
I looked up a list online and saw a top 10 beat 'em ups for the PS1 list, and I didn't recognize most of them. Number 1 on the list was Jackie Chan Stuntmaster.
Really? Okay.
Stuntmaster.
Okay. Okay. How big is that list?
Well, it's a top 10 list.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant it ranked like all of them. It had a list of like all of them.
No. All right. That got Kenny.
Yeah. How big is that list?
I beat 'em ups is a genre that's been around for a while. A lot on the Super Nintendo, like on the earlier consoles. I think as consoles and gaming matured, we saw less and less of it for some reason.
Well, PlayStation was RPG for sure. Like real big on RPG, real big on racing games too. That was another really big genre.
I think Nolan kind of stumbled on why to some degree.
3D?
Because new technology, and they were like, we want to make stuff 3D.
That's
and
harder, yeah.
Your knee-jerk reaction isn't like, oh, it's a beat-em-up that we need to do this.
It's an adventure game.
It lends itself to other things more. I don't know.
No, that's a good point. That's probably what it was. So you didn't play Jackie Chan Stuntmaster?
No,
ever?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think I had played a single beat 'em up on the PlayStation.
I didn't either.
My entire childhood.
Yeah.
So this was my first experience with a beat 'em up on the PlayStation. And then secondly, Jackie Chan.
Yes.
We named a movie that he was in. I think he was also in Kung Fu Panda. But I think he was a voice. I don't think he showed up with
They
all
just
the
put him in
animation.
there in an animated movie. Hey guys, it's me.
Were you a Jackie Chan fan? Are you a Jackie Chan fan?
No.
Jackie Chan fan. That sounds fun to say.
I am not. I like him, but I haven't seen enough of his movies to make a call on like if I'm a fan of Jackie Chan as in general. I've seen Police Story. That's his like outside of Rush Hour. That was like his big stunt martial arts movie, and I did like it. But no, I'm not a fan. I wouldn't say that.
Kenneth?
Yeah, I liked his stuff. I feel like I was sort of at an age where the silly action kung fu movie was sort of like hitting its stride big right as I was sort of real into it. I will say that genre didn't like stick around.
No.
So we talk
really.
about Jackie Chan being this like big name, but like he was a big name in the early 2000s. I don't know that he's had longevity. And I think, and I don't really know, I'm not informed enough to get into this, but I think has kind of actually fallen out of favor due to like some political kinds of stuff.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, in 2016, he was the second highest paid actor in the world. So it did hit its stride for a little bit. In 16.
Say that sentence one more time.
All right, I will, but I'll add just a little bit of context. In 2015, Forbes estimated his net worth to be at $350 million, and as of 2016, he was the second highest paid actor in the world.
Okay.
Wow. What movies was he getting paid for in 2016?
I don't know. I'm not a Jackie Chan fan. I, of course, saw a few of the key movies back in its height.
Yeah.
But like y'all are saying, I think that was before 2016, like considerably before 2016.
Yeah, Rush Hour and Rush Hour 2 were funny, but they're not $350 million funny.
Maybe. I mean, they were big. No one else did this like Jackie Chan. Like he kind of had that corner of the market, or that part of the market corner, because he's actually a stuntman that is talented and knows all these moves. Like, so yeah, he could do all these things and it was impressive. And so no one else was like, oh, I want to do that. Like you can't.
Yeah. And funny. No one learns martial arts and then is like, oh, I'm going to make people laugh doing this.
No.
Everybody who does that is like, oh, I'm going to be a big action star and like kick everybody in the face. And I get it, but he is a very unique sort of intersection of talents. And that's part of why he was so big.
Gameplay.
The game is fairly simple in its setup. You've got a hub area, which is kind of interesting because that's abnormal for a beat 'em up just in general. And then you have 3 stages per area. They're not called 1A, 2A, 3A, but that's basically what it is, followed by a boss fight. You do that over and over again, you beat the game. But there are some cutscenes. It is PlayStation, so there's some cutscenes before, during, at the end that are very cinematically shot. Nolan, you brought that up when you were doing your first play. And really, like it's a film, like it's one of Jackie Chan's films, and they really do that. And so there's a lot to talk about here. Before we get too deep in, I just want to say, putting Stuntmaster on the name of the game and Jackie Chan being a stunt man, but then stunts are all about things being fake, right?
Yes. Yes.
But in this game, it's real. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. No.
He is
they're not about
Stuntmaster.
Yes.
Not in the game.
because he has gotten a unique set of skills from his stunt masting, then when his grandfather is kidnapped, he can go out and do real stunts and real fighting to save him.
Okay, your previous statement's incorrect. It's not about it being fake. It's actually about it being real. Like, so...
That's not what's...
It is. In movies, when a car crashes and they need someone in it or, like, on fire, they actually do that instead of the actor doing it.
Wait, okay. So in this game... Is the character that Jackie Chan is playing, is it Jackie Chan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you think his real grandfather is Frederick?
Yes.
Probably.
No. But it is Jackie.
So this is 2017 after Jackie Chan is hitting hard times. He's no longer on the Forbes list. He's working at a factory for his grandfather. And then he puts his stunt masting into practice?
Yes, into IRL use.
Okay. He hasn't fallen on hard times. He's just helping out his family. Because he's a good guy, and they kidnap the grandfather to get Jackie's money.
Or we played the plot of a movie and they didn't tell us, and this is just a movie, and he was a stuntman in it.
But here's the thing: as a stuntman, I get what you're saying, Nolan, that it is real, but you're not really fighting people. Jackie is now running through the streets of wherever we are.
New York.
And he is
that's almost as bad as how many are on the list.
Are the Twin Towers on the loading screen?
Yeah, like really prominently.
Yeah.
Okay.
The timing in that was kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. And so, but he's going around and like actually fighting people, not stunting on them. He's actually fighting people.
He's stunting.
I mean, he's stunting on them, all right.
Okay, here's what I think. We played a Jackie Chan movie.
Okay, I'll buy that.
And yeah, so these aren't real punches landing, but to us, we thought it was because he's that good.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Why am I drinking a bunch of milk?
Oh yeah. Wait, hold on. We got to get there.
Why am I chugging milk to get my health back if I haven't gotten hit and hurt myself?
It helps build strong bones. Back then, we still were working on the food pyramid. Okay.
All you need to get your health back in this game is a carton of milk and Chinese food, and that heals you completely.
That's my diet.
I'll buy that.
Those are the health vials, health pots here. The game is divided into two different kinds of gameplay. One is your fighting, your beat 'em up, your hits and kicks, and the other is platforming.
Yes.
I just assumed this was going to be a beat 'em up, and when they threw in platformer in there, I thought we might jump some. But no, there are entire sections that are devoted to making or executing jumps and rolling under swinging boxes.
Yeah, you say platforming, but it's a really stunty kind of platforming. It's more parkour, not parkour for its own sake.
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
You know, he's jumping and swinging and climbing up things and sliding down things and dodging moving vehicles and fighting while on vehicles. I was worried that Stuntmaster was going to be a weird, just sort of title, but outside of the fact that there was a lot of fighting, which you had to have, that was the core of this game, they put a lot of the stunt kinds of stuff all throughout the game and a pretty wide variety of it too.
Yes. And Dustin, I'm glad you broke it down into two there, because it really did feel like the platforming side was like a full part of the game and the combat side was also a full part instead of both of them being like halfway done. Now, I think one of
it well.
They did, and I think one of them is good, and I think one of them is bad.
Okay.
So
interesting.
I think the combat is bad, and I'll tell you why. I had a really big issue, and I mentioned this in the first play. I said if it continues, I'll be mad, and it did.
Mm-hmm.
Are
you talking about the 3-hit fall?
There is a formula in this game, yes. That is 1, 2, 3, enemy fall, repeat.
Wait for half an hour.
Yeah, wait. Repeat until the enemy's dead. And the pausing there in between the combat feels really bad, and I think defeats any sort of what they were going for with a moveset. Why have a varying moveset if it's not going to feel different when you land things? So that was abysmal. I hate the combat in this game.
No. There are some ways to get a few more hits on before they fall, but they really do. And it feels okay when you're surrounded and it gives you a brief break with one guy to be able to focus on another guy. But when you're fighting that one last guy and you have to do 3 hits, he falls down and he stays down for a few seconds.
Yeah, he's like, give me a
Not
sec.
half an hour, like I said, but it really is a few seconds. So you're just standing there. And the real strategy here, yeah, you can try to chain some combos, but if you want to be safe and not get hit a lot, because you will get hit a lot, is to really just wait until he comes back up and step away, step close. And that gives him enough time where he's not immediately trying to hit you, and then you hit him back. But over and over again from the first stage to the final stage, and that gets redundant.
Yeah, big time.
In fairness, if Jackie Chan punched me 3 times, I would fall down.
He wouldn't actually punch you. He's a stunt man.
I would stay down.
But
I'm not an idiot.
Stunting is real.
Okay, so he would punch you. It just wouldn't be his full force. Now
he would just pull the punches.
The other side of this game is the platforming, and I actually think this is good. There are some, and I think you're right, Kenny. It does feel stunty, and there are some moments where they actually are like, okay, you can do this platforming challenge, roll under the, like, I'm thinking of the pier stage, roll under the boxes, make a jump, grab the ledge, and avoid combat. And if you fail that, you have to go and fight and do the bad part. But, like, the platforming side reminded me appropriately of this era of PlayStation, like 3D platformers. And I did not expect them to actually have some variance there, but I liked the platforming side of it.
Yeah, and they tried to mix it up, not just with what they threw at you in the platformer, because they did, and they put a lot of different things, but also like the pacing as well. They did a good job of. There is a lot of fighting, and the fighting does get a little redundant. I'm not arguing with that, though. I do think there's some answers there, but generally speaking, they mix it up. They put you in different areas, different views, fighting some, swinging some, stunting some, fighting on cars. Like it's a much more varied game than I expected when we first jumped into it.
One of the things we haven't talked about is that on every stage you are collecting these dragon icons. They're not power-ups. They do not change your moveset. They do not upgrade Jackie. They do not do any of the things that could have been cool. They are just collectibles, and there's 10 per stage and a golden one, I believe. And I think the idea is they put a lot in your path so that you're very familiar with them, but then they hide a few to encourage you to return to a stage and play it again in search of more. And because you can always return to stages, which you can't always do in beat 'em ups. So that's another thing that I thought that was an interesting idea, but I think they're just to help with your points at the end of the stage and then bonus content at the very end of the game.
True ending. Yeah.
A true ending,
like,
right.
Where I think it's Jackie talking to you, like, about the game.
Well, and I think there's a video you can watch at the end about the making of the game with Jackie, like
like behind the scenes, like a DVD. That's cool.
You're right.
Okay.
But again, these things that you're collecting aren't doing anything in the context of the game.
It gives you something to find. I found I didn't feel they were super necessary, but if I saw one, I was going to go out of my way to make sure I collected it. I do wish there'd been some reward there, or even like a heavier emphasis on exploration. They did some of that where there were some kind of puzzly hidden sorts of things, but not a ton. But that's not the point ultimately either. It's this whole running around kung fu-ing your way through this action movie sort of scenario, and that was just sort of like a bonus platforming thing. It didn't bother me that there wasn't more there.
And I would agree with you if you couldn't return and they did this weird hub world approach like Dustin was saying, like that implies there's a lot to do. And there's not. It's just go.
You just play through the stage.
You just play through the stage.
So
take a different path.
While you are playing through the stage, though, you've got some options because you can fight and just kung fu your way through it, but you can also interact with the world around you and kick a barrel into the enemies, or kick the enemies off a platform and into water,
or slap them with a fish,
pick up some items, exactly, or grab a giant fish and slap them, all while Jackie is commenting on what's going on with his voiceovers the whole time.
Yes, he was.
So they Jackie, by the way, if you haven't been able to tell yet, Jackie was very involved with the making of this game. And so they captured his voice for a few voice lines throughout, and captured his facial expressions and body movements for both the facial expressions, I cannot wait for us to talk about that, and the body movements of this little character.
Yeah.
And so that sounds good. For some of the voice things, I don't know if you knew, well, probably not, because none of us were Jackie Chan movie aficionados, but some of the lines were just ripped from movies, which I feel like that's illegal.
Yeah. There's probably some rights there that they did not have to the.
They're his lines.
He's like, it's fine.
And who's gonna say anything about it?
Universal's like,
and Jackie Chan's gonna kick his way into
Jackie's
your
like,
office.
I'm the second richest actor in the world.
They're like, you have a point there.
He'll kick his way into your office, slap you with a fish, and then tell you you're overweight, and you'll just drop it.
Aged.
We find games that get better and sweeter over time. And then we find Jackie Chan Stuntmaster. The PlayStation graphics work fine for the gameplay of this game, I think. But for the cutscenes and the looks of your characters during those cutscenes, there's just something uncomfortably, I don't even know how to describe it, bad about this game and how it looks.
Maybe the worst thing I've ever seen.
I wrote down an eloquent sentence in my notes about the graphics. I said the graphics are trash.
Yeah,
that's it. They're blocky. They are out of proportion. And see, I disagree, Kenny. I don't think they're even good in the gameplay. I think the environments are okay. And what's so startling here is that they had some talent and ability, because in the cutscenes, everything but the character models is really good, I thought. Like, really good for PlayStation.
Like we said, cinematic. It felt.
But those
movie-ish.
character models, what they went for were these Minecraft, like
Roblox.
But then they did the 007 GoldenEye face mesh thing.
That's the comparison.
Worse than GoldenEye.
Worse than GoldenEye. That's what I was going to say. If you did it worse than an N64 title, we have an issue. And there's no excuse when you have PlayStation titles that had beautiful cutscenes, even in-game cutscenes, not just like playing a movie. Like, there's not... I mean... That's not where their time went. That's not where their money went. I guess their money went to Jackie, having him come on, and he was like, "No, let me put on the suit and everything. I want to like do that." And they were like, "Cool." And then at the end, they were like, "Dude, the fists, like, it looks like a Roblox character. They're too big for the environment they're in. Their heads are huge. That face stretch, dude, is really atrocious.
The face
it's so
stretch
funny.
is the piece that bugs me the most. I get characters being blocky, and like we give it a hard time. And yes, there were some beautiful like pre-rendered graphics on PlayStation titles, but there's some PS1 games that are pretty early 3D and show it.
Yeah.
And it's not always a problem.
Sure.
I still stand by the fact that the gameplay itself, once you're in there and it's smaller characters and they're running around and fighting, looks fine.
I agree.
It just bugs me in the videos, and mainly the awful weird face stretch, because it's just like uncomfortable. Ugh.
The thing that I think is a bummer is that because we got Jackie's facial expressions and Jackie's body movements, which you can tell both are there, it is distracting, and it doesn't come across clearly to me that is, like, I can tell that is Jackie's movements because I've seen some of his movies. But because of the shapes that I'm looking at, it's so distracting from what could have been a good idea. I think either go harder in the mocap stuff, or just don't, and create a graphic and an image that looks better than what we were given.
I think they bit off more than they can chew with making a beat 'em up 3D like this. I think they pulled off the gameplay aspect in terms of the platforming and you're actually punching things, but it really suffered visually. And it's like unforgivable. The first play, go watch it. I had to look away. I was so offended. It is so bad.
And how they reveal his face. He's not facing the camera, and then he turns like we're supposed to be impressed.
Like a reveal. Oh, it's Jackie. Ah! Like,
yeah.
No.
You brought up platforming again. I want to go back to it here in the age section, because loading screens...
Oh, man, yeah.
Especially for some of these older games, are sometimes rough.
Long.
But here, there are so many of them, because you've got a hub world, so every time you get back to the hub world, every time you leave the hub world, and then in the platforming section, every time I fall in the water, I restart the stage with a loading screen that takes so long, and again, I'm looking at the Twin Towers the whole time.
I didn't think about it until y'all said something, but that's really funny. I mean, it's not.
It's not.
The loading screens were noticeably long, and it took me back. I was like, man, we've become really spoiled. Like, these happen real time for us now. They do little tricks so that we don't notice things are rendering, and that's a good progression in gaming. This is just like loading. It's like your computer.
Yeah, it's rough. The music and the voice cues, I think, have also soured a little bit with time too. The humor feels very early 2000s. I mean, I know Jackie Chan and it's him giving his lines, but because he is as over the top, like, Asian action hero-y as he is, I never know if I should be like laughing or like kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the music is kind of the same too. It really sort of panders to that theme, and I get it, and it works. And it's not like they didn't like set out to make a game that was offensive, and I don't think it is. It's just a little uncomfortable. It just didn't age well.
No. I'm going to defend both the soundtrack and the voice lines here. The soundtrack is awesome. It's drum and bass. Like, it makes no sense with this game, but it works. And I was vibing to every single track. There were several different tracks for the different stages, and there were 15 of them. I don't know if there are 15 tracks, but they changed it up. And I really enjoyed the drum and bass undertones throughout the whole soundtrack. It was really unique. And the voice lines, I laughed every single time. I was Yes.
You can't tell me you didn't get sick of a joke the third time he said it.
Well,
the 20th time.
Yeah,
I felt my game was broken at one point because I think he was doing the same line over and over again, and I was like, no.
It tries to be contextual with these lines. You can tell that sometimes, and it's kind of cool when, like, the first time you get kicked in the head, he says something about having a headache, but like, and it wouldn't have happened otherwise. And where, like, the enemies that he's fighting against that are bigger guys are the ones that he, like, taunts about being overweight or whatever. Like, they really tried to make this stuff contextual.
But all
those
things...
his flavor of jokes. So I'm not saying like it's a problem. It just, they didn't land with me, and I do like his stuff, but it didn't feel funny to me here. It felt a little forced, and too many of them.
I think Jackie Chan was canceled, like you said, for fat shaming in Jackie Chan Stuntmaster.
No,
that was the line.
It wasn't.
That was the line.
It wasn't about support of the Chinese government or whatever. It was this game that got him in trouble.
Yeah. All right. So you can get a PlayStation copy for $47 used. If you want it brand new, it's going to be near $200 to get the disc. And I would imagine it's not multi-disc here. We're not talking about some kind of JRPG.
No.
So
it's because he's the second richest paid actor, whatever.
That's why it's so much.
Yeah,
we got to keep paying the guy.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every episode, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. I'll begin by saying this is a terrible game. And the thing that baffles me is that every review I could find about it online was raving. Was talking and some of the things they talked about were how good the graphics were and how realistic Jackie's face looked. Listen, I lived in 2000. No.
Even back then, no.
Yeah,
you forget a little bit.
No, I mean, I'm sure I know. No, Kenny, I forget a lot of it. But the reality is this. Okay, if all we're doing is talking about how it's aged, this ages awfully, absolutely awfully on the graphic part alone, but on the gameplay as well. I just felt like it was not fun. Nolan, you seemed to enjoy some of the platforming, and Kenny, I think you thought the graphics looked fine in the gameplay or whatever, but like I just thought it was bad from the start to the end. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it should have been or could have been when you have a popular celebrity that makes a game. Those tend to be bad. This isn't the worst of them, but this is bad. And it does not get my vote for New Game Plus status, and you absolutely should not play it.
I had so much fun playing this game, and the reviews are right, Dustin. But not for what they said. Not for what they said. They're right that they enjoyed it. This game is so bad that it's good. It's so atrocious to look at that I laughed every single cutscene. I laughed during the gameplay when he would drop a line that didn't fit or make sense. No. I forgot that the combat sucked because I did actually like some of the platforming. I was a little surprised in the variety in the stages, but the humor mixed with the character models, mix in his lines. This game rules. I laughed a lot. Did you get to the disco scene fight?
Is that the end of the second area?
There's a disco guy on a dance floor, and you fight him. But before you fight, Jackie dances and says like, "Oh yeah, what?" I laughed the whole time, and you also golf one of the bosses away with a broom. It's the most ridiculous, stupid game that I love it. So it gets in GP. I don't care.
Oh my god!
I don't even
swear
care.
To G. If Jackie Chan Stuntmaster gets this,
and
what?
Shoot 'em up didn't.
Well, no, I wasn't for Ikaruga.
No, I'm talking about the other one.
You're talking about my shoot 'em up. I don't know. I'm still just thinking like people talking about Mega Man 3 and stuff like that.
Well,
all right.
Well, I don't care. I have to.
Kenny, set this right. Kenny, look at me first. I know you're looking at your notes and you already wrote stuff down, but you can change stuff that you wrote. Like,
yeah. There are two timelines here, Kenny, and you're in charge.
I know. I do not like that at all. It makes me wildly uncomfortable. Okay. I will say I'm looking at my notes right now, and what I said was I'll decide during the episode.
Screw this.
Okay.
So I don't know that the three of us have ever been so like weirdly diametrically opposed, because you're both completely wrong, but for the wrong reasons about things. Nolan, this game wasn't that funny, but it was a fun game. No, the humor didn't age well. It had some Jackie Chan moments, but like that's 2003. Like it didn't land.
16.
But Dustin, this game is also not a bad game, like at all. This is a good game, and there's a reason it got well reviewed when it came out.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a better game when it came out than it is now. It didn't age super well. That's the main problem with this game.
And that's why I love it.
It's unique. It's unique. There's not a lot of other games like this on the PlayStation. And it's fun, even though the combat leans a little repetitious. Like, they're giving you options of fights and combos and jumping off walls and spin kicking people. If you like get into this game and learn to do the stuff, I think people would have fun with it. Little repetitious again, but I don't know. I don't know if in 2021 it's good enough to justify going back and playing. I think this is one that should live in the early 2000s. Like when you were a kid and rented it and played it, I think it's going to be boss. I just don't think it's good enough playing it today, even though it's a good game, to justify giving it in GP status. So for all the wrong reasons, you guys are right and wrong about everything, but I have to ultimately fall into Dustin's camp. Barely, though.
That's fine.
And say no new game plus, but this game does not deserve the negativity that it did get from either of you. It's a pretty good game.
Nolan, you're not going to fight this one? You're okay?
Absolutely not, but just let it be known, I love Jackie Chan Stuntmaster.
Jackie Chan Stuntmaster is not New Game Plus certified, but what did you think? We had 423 votes on YouTube. 28% said yes, it's worth playing today. 8% said no, and go figure, 64% have never played it before. Maybe we should stop doing these because nobody's played the game.
No one's played any game except for Final Fantasy VII and Ocarina of Time.
Or Super Mario World.
Or Mario.
We only had a small fraction of our community right in this week. Garlisle Faithful said, I was genuinely a bit impressed. Now, mostly, that was because my expectations of licensed titles are very low. But it does a solid job actually feeling like a Jackie Chan film while with fitting environmental hazards, all the expected one-liners, and even cinematic and actions that fit. It's a decently competent game, too, thanks to reasonably explorable levels and okay control. Heck, it even has a decent soundtrack. The combat wasn't terribly inspired, though, and this is a significant part of the game, but it's still functional and forgiving enough to work. I don't think this game is amazing, but it was certainly better than Jackie's face texture would lead you to believe.
Absolutely. He nailed it. Great summary.
Well, okay. Yeah. But if this is the #1 beat 'em up on the PlayStation, you should probably just stop there.
They just didn't make them. They didn't make beat 'em ups.
You don't get to be the boss of people in video games. I played Wheel of Fortune on the NES as a kid and had a great time, and you'll never take it from me. Let them make the games they want to make.
Super Gamer Guy said, surprisingly, Stuntmaster isn't all that bad.
Okay.
I might even venture to call it good. However, the enemy variety and graphical quality leave a lot to be desired. Despite that, Stuntmaster manages to have some pretty fun gameplay, along with decent background music and interesting stage layouts. I think it just falls short of NGP status, but I can definitely recommend it to fans of Jackie Chan's films and or the beat 'em up genre. 7.1 out of 10.
Okay. I agree with that too.
We also forgot to say it, but I think, Nolan, you're probably firmly in this camp. Hilarious bosses.
Like, all of them. The chef
were fun and kind of different.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess our humor differs. Mine is this kind of like intelligent, like, highbrow humor. And yours is like, slap me with a fish and that's funny, you know?
That's way funnier than anything you think is funny. You need some milk.
You can slap me with a fish, but it's not to make me laugh.
For now, we're going to set aside Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster to never come back to. And from our retro master list, we're going to randomly select what game we'll be playing for the next 7 days. Randomizing now. Sometimes the randomizer has us play comparable games within a short span of one another, and there's nothing we can do about it. No, it's not this one.
Okay.
It's similar to a recent game that we played. This, though, is a side-scrolling shooter.
Okay.
We're back to a shooter very quickly. It was published by Sega for the Master System in 1990 and the Game Gear in 1992.
Okay.
I like Game Gear games sometimes.
I don't.
The player takes the role of a freedom fighter who must destroy 5 targets. It's a very short game.
Shoot 5 targets and it's over.
We are going to be playing a game called Aerial Assault.
Oh, maybe I know what this is. That sounds really familiar, the name.
You were a big Sega boy, I wonder.
Yeah. I didn't own it for sure, but maybe I've rented it. 5 targets.
If it was Master System, that's Genesis here in the States, correct? So that's
Mega
1990.
Drive, I don't know.
And then Game Gear. So we'll have to see if there's any difference between the two. But yeah, find a copy of Aerial Assault and play it along with us this week.
Join us in Discord. Go to ngppodcast.com and click Join us in Discord.
Join us on patreon.com. Go to patreon.com and join us as a patron. Like our newest patrons, Korgster, Damien, and Ian. Like our huge list of producer-level supporters, Amarlian, Antonin, Ben, Bethany, Fox, Brunt, Carrie, Captain Protein, Dan the Man, DB Muppet, Francesca, Gimvin, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Clint, Corey, Lorelai, Matthew, Maxima, Mr. Lattes, Nawel, Secret Duck of Evermore, Shauna Thomas, Unbedevable War, Adonis William, and Zion. And like our amazing directors who go well above and beyond and support us in so many ways and with their hearts. Bro Jim, Carlisle, Zachary. We truly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
Thank you. You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice, and make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. This episode was edited and produced by our good friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play the Master System game entitled Aerial Assault. The Master System, which of course is the predecessor to the Sega Genesis, and I knew that. I'm still Dustin.
I'm Kenny.
Nolan.
And this has been New Game Plus.